Well, we found a quiet space in the railway station down in Port Erin. We've just had the Rushen debate in the Whistlestop Cafe, Phil. 4 candidates standing in Rushen: Michelle Haywood, Mark Kemp, Andrew Langan-Newton, who's standing for the Green Party, and Gawne Watterson. What did you make of all that then?
I was fascinated, I have to say. I thought it was a really good debate. I thought there were 4 excellent candidates. The sitting candidate, obviously very polished, smooth, good answers, hardly broke into a sweat. Mr. Kemp seemed fairly angry in some of his answers, quite hard on the government, which I suppose is what you might expect. Mr. Langan-Newton, very passionate and a clear vision. I love vision. I really do like people who have a vision. Whether Andrew's vision is just a little bit too out there for the good people of Rushen, only time will tell.
Don't think we're ready for that then yet?
Well, I don't know. I am, but maybe others aren't. And then, of course, Michelle, again, really good, competent performance. She seemed calm, but very much able to thrust the knife in as required as the political debate went on. So, yeah, very good. 4 excellent candidates there.
And as you say, a lot of passion in some of the speeches that we heard this evening, which I'm not saying it's been lacking until now, but I suppose we're sort of nearing the election time, aren't we? So time, in some essences, is running out.
Yes, it is. And I suppose because we're now potentially for some 2, maybe 3 months into the election campaign, if they haven't got polished answers by now, they're never going to get polished answers. But yeah, I was impressed. There were some interesting comments I noted in relation to the green agenda. Michelle Haywood was taking a slightly cautious approach, saying we need to stop, think, and then act, because we could end up with a load of white elephants. I would argue we've been thinking this through for about 10 years now. Possibly the time for action is coming. 3 consultations in the last 5 years and still no real significant action.
Well, we would have expected a passionate response to the climate agenda from Andrew Langan-Newton, which we got.
Absolutely, yes. And his view was need a government that takes the lead. All we've seen over the past 2 years is pontification and inaction. Yes, he was very positive on that. Gawne Watterson's talking about decarbonising, also suggesting that actually using Kroger's potential money that get if Kroger exploits the gas field, we could use that to decarbonise the island, which is a sensible policy. I have to say that because I think it was probably mine 5 or 6 years ago. Whether we've moved on, whether it's too late to be extracting gas, well, that's obviously something that there's a consultation on at the moment. So we'd have to see how that plays out.
Some interesting questions again from the people who were in the audience tonight, and as ever really bring out the essence of what people are focused on and what they're really worried about.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there was an interesting, lots of interesting questions. I mean, one really good question about the rates.
I love looking at you whenever this subject comes up.
Well, I thought there were 3 fairly neutral, I think might be the polite way of putting it, answers. And then Michelle sort of delved into this with, can you delve into sewage? Yes, I suppose you can.
She certainly gave us an image.
Yeah, talking about occupancy, and whether that was occupying the toilet or occupying the house. But basically her argument was if you only produce a certain amount of, or you only use a certain amount of, then you should only be paying, if there's only one of you in the house, you should pay less. Of course, what government knows is the main cost, something like 90% of the cost, is the infrastructure, actually getting the water to the house, getting the effluent away from the house. That's 90% of the cost. It doesn't matter whether you use 1 litre of water or whether you use 10 litres of water, it's still going to cost about 90% of your rate bill, just getting the infrastructure there. But I do get the idea that single occupancy, there's less ability to pay in a household. So yeah, interesting.
What we know is there will be a new face in Rushen. Judging from what you've seen tonight, could there be 2 new faces?
There always could be. I was interested to note the 24keys.com analysis in which they were noting that actually over the course of the last, I think, 4, possibly 5 elections, there is an increasing chance of the sitting candidates losing their seats. If you go back 4 elections, it was barely possible for a sitting candidate to lose their seat. But over the last 2 or 3 elections, it's become more and more possible. However, I do think that of all the polished performances that I've seen, there was only Alf Cannon and Dewan Watterson who gave really supremely confident polished performances. So I'd be surprised if Mr. Speaker wasn't still an MHK after the election. Who the other one's going to be, I think, is quite close. Certainly the soundings I've done around the constituency, I'm not at all sure who's going to get that second spot.
Do you know who you would vote for if you lived in the constituency?
Yes.
You're not going to tell us though, are you?
No.